Markets with David Modell.
Welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Today's special guest is Dr. Herman Weiss. Dr. Weiss is chairman of Todos Medical. Todos Medical is a publicly traded company in the in vitro diagnostics market. Based out of Israel, Todos Medical is on the cutting edge of the cancer diagnostics space. For investors, the stock ticker symbol is TOMDF. So thank you, Dr. Weiss, for joining me today.
Thank you, David, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to the next few minutes.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Weiss, could you please tell me about your background?
Sure, thank you. So, I'm a MD, graduated Ohio State Medical School, went to Einstein residency for OBGYN and women's health, practiced bread and butter OBGYN and women's health in Long Island for almost a dozen years. And then moved to Israel. I opened up my own biotech medical device company, co-founded, was the chief medical officer. At that time, I got an MBA from George Washington University in business administration and entrepreneurship, and then was recruited to be the global medical director for the women's health division at Teva Pharmaceuticals. Did that for 5 years, and then I was recruited to become the VP of Medical Affairs and clinical development and head their clinical development team at a different pharmaceutical company called Juniper Pharmaceuticals in Boston. So I still am board certified both in America, in the U.S., in New York, and in Israel to treat women and women's health.
And what prompted you to join Todos Medical?
So when you're treating women and seeing patients and trying to give them the best chance at health, it's always about determining the testing that you want to do, whether it be cholesterol testing or blood counts or a stool test for colon cancer. You always want to try to detect the cancer at an earlier stage if there is, or even a pre-malignant stage, like for example a pap smear. You try to do a pap smear earlier so that you can find, God forbid, a cancer and treat it properly. And I'm always looking for, what's going to be the new test of the future, what's going to be the standard of care. And I came across a few papers, a few scientific journal articles about a new, cheap, reproducible test that was found in the proof of concept stage. And it was detecting breast cancer and colon cancer and leukemias and soft tissue cancers. And it was Todos Medical. So I've been following them for some time. And a few months ago, they approached me and they saw my pedigree, my ability to bring products and pharmaceuticals and devices to the market and diagnostics. And they asked me to help them start to commercialize and start to solidify our go-to-market strategy over the last few months. So it's been pretty exciting to watch them from a concept, from basically a lab test, to be a substantial, potentially transformative, disruptive test that pretty much every doctor will start to use, not just for women's care, but for all care shortly.
Absolutely. Now, what unmet needs does your company fulfill?
So for screening for breast cancers, the women should be getting a mammogram. Now, it depends on what age they should be getting it, and how often they should be getting it. Depends on which society says what. But sometimes often mammograms are not that comfortable, and often they yield results that are inconclusive. And those inconclusive testings, those what we call BI-RADS 3 or even 4, where the patients have dense breasts, and it just unnecessarily and needlessly scares the patient. Oh, you need to get a biopsy, or you need to get an MRI or a 3D ultrasound, or do things that are more invasive. And really often it's for nothing, just because they're scared of saying that the breast tissue looks normal. And often with dense breasts, it's very challenging to see that if there's any malignancy that's hiding behind the density. So what we've developed is a simple blood test that's cost effective, that will not break the bank, that a third party payer will gladly utilize and work into their standard of care, into their algorithms on how to prevent breast cancer. And what it'll do, it'll detect who needs to have a biopsy or who doesn't need to have a biopsy. And it's very exciting that we're able to do this. Now, those patients, specifically for the mammograms, many women don't get mammograms, but if they had a blood test, that would be easily to determine. That may be a step to say, hey, now you need to get a mammogram. So, similarly in colon cancer, they say about 60% of patients who have ordered to get a screening colonoscopy don't get it. They don't follow through because the prep is uncomfortable, the testing is uncomfortable. But if they had a simple blood test that they could go, and they're getting blood tests for their cholesterol, they're getting blood tests for their thyroid and their blood counts, they're getting either yearly, twice yearly in some cases, or their diabetes. It would be very simple, and really, they wouldn't give it a second thought if they're able to do a blood test that could detect the early stages of cancer. And the idea is that the earlier you catch it, the earlier you catch a cancer, the better it is, the better survival is, the better tools we give to doctors to help them prevent the cancer from getting larger or spreading. And catching it early obviously gives the best prognosis for long-term survival.
Sure. Now, could you please give me a brief overview of the technology?
Sure. So what's fascinating is when they started this process of determining the body's response to cancer, it was pre all the immunotherapies that are happening now. Now, if you look at any pharmaceutical company is working on enhancing the body's immune response to cancer, and specifically for each of the cancers. So the therapeutics have caught up and are using the immune system, the body's own immune system, to fight it. So what we've done, and this has started years and years ago, was that the body does mount an immune response, just like a body mounts immune response to a pneumonia, to an infection, to a bronchitis, whatever the case may be. The white cells and the blood counts change a little bit. So it's very unique to each specific infection, each specific cancer. So what we've determined and what we found is that every cancer has a unique fingerprint. And our algorithms have proven that we can detect who has an early, even before metastatic disease, before large amounts of cancer are circulating, and you don't have to find a cancer cell that's circulating, because by then it's already too late. By the time that they do a blood test and these things called the liquid biopsies, then that's already finding the cancer cell that's circulating. That's already has a high chance of having already metastatic disease. What we're trying to find is the body's initial response to the cancer, and to saying, hey, we need to fight this because it's foreign. This is before chemotherapy, before detection. When a mammogram finds a cancer, it's usually 1 centimeter. And 1 centimeter is about the size of your pinky nail. That's not small. That's huge in cancer cells. What we're trying to find is way before that, when there's a small inkling of a cancerous growth where the body's fighting it. And then that's the unique immune fingerprint that we're identifying, and we're able to detect that there's something there.
And how will this technology help physicians to improve patient care?
Well, I think as I mentioned, and just to be very clear, the earlier you catch cancer, the better. The less chance of metastatic disease, the less chance of recurrence, the better chance of you excising everything before it grows into local tissues and distant tissues. So the sooner you can detect that this patient has either cancerous growth or some inkling of a cancer, it's much better to get it out early. So the idea is that this would be an adjunct. This would be something, someone has a mammogram and is unsure of the diagnosis, or has dense breasts, then you can go and do this blood test and be able to determine which way to treat this patient. So physicians will be flocking to this, and don't forget, it's not just about the American market. The Asian market has a much higher percentage rate of dense breast tissue in their patients, and they're getting on board with this test already, and they're very excited about partnering with us and trying to bring this technology outside of the U.S. We already have a CE mark granted in the EU, and we're looking to start our regulatory pathway in the U.S.
Are there other diseases that this technology could be implemented for?
So as I mentioned, the breast cancer, the colon cancer, the soft tissue tumors, it's been seen in leukemias, and anything that the immune system is trying to fight or has some systematic approach, we can fingerprint it, and we can do the immune testing to show that this is reproducible. It maintains itself through disease, and it's not seen in normal tissue or in normal patients who don't have the disease. So we're doing a lot of studies in other diseases as well, and it's very exciting for us.
Yeah. So what is the current status of the scientific timelines?
So as I mentioned, we already have scientific literature published in different disease states, such as breast and colon cancer. Those are proof of concept studies saying, hey, we have something here. We have a unique fingerprint. We have a unique way that we can identify it and reproduce it. So once you do the proof of concept test, then you do the validation studies. So right now we have validation studies ongoing in Singapore and in Israel, and we're starting up another validation study in Israel as well. So we plan on hopefully enrolling and finishing those trials within, I don't want to give you any timelines, but we are actively and aggressively starting those trials and recruiting. Hopefully recruiting patients and physicians to enroll their patients.
Great. Great.
So that's the scientific portion. And then once we get that up and running, like I mentioned, we have the CE mark already. We could start selling tomorrow, but we need the science to back it up for the EU market. We hope sometime in 2018, likely the end of 2018, will be commercialized in the EU, and hopefully in the 2019 range elsewhere, including the US and the Asian markets.
Well, this has been really inspiring to me, and I am confident that Todos will be a game changer in the immuno-diagnostics space. Is there anything else you would like potential investors to know about the future of Todos Medical?
Well, thank you, David. This has been a really enjoyable few moments to spend to go over our technology and our plans for the future. We have a rock-solid foundation of science, and being a physician and being a scientist and my life is encompassed in research and development, that's what drew me to the company. What's also impressive is that we have the sky's the limit for each of these different screening tests that we're developing. We want to make sure that we do the studies properly and in a time-sensitive fashion. We have a very strong patent family that's part of our foundation that will prevent somebody else from coming in and undercutting us or taking some of our thunder. And rarely do you see I wouldn't call it a startup company, but rarely would you see a pre-revenue company that has a tremendous amount of upside at such a, I would say really, cheap valuation at this time. And it's a really incredible upward mobility that we have for this company. And just stay tuned because it's really exciting, and I'm really happy to be part of it.
Well, we certainly will stay tuned, and I believe that Todos Medical presents an exciting opportunity for investors to get involved with a company on the cutting edge of the immunodiagnostics space. So thank you very much, Dr. Weiss, for joining me today on Looking at the Markets. You're welcome back anytime, sir.
Thank you very much, David. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to it. I'll give you an update in a couple months.